Sign here, Mom, my son said, sliding the pen across the kitchen table like a waiter delivering a check I hadn't ordered. It's just permission so we can fix the plumbing before the city inspection, he added with a light laugh that didn't reach his eyes. My daughter-in-law Carly stood behind him with her arms folded, her perfume turning the air sugary and stale. The notary at the end of the table cleared his throat, avoiding my gaze the way people do when they suspect a dog's about to bite, but hope it won't be them. My hands were still damp from washing dishes. I dried them on the dish towel slowly, because time was the only thing I still owned in full. I am 72, a retired school secretary from a modest townhouse in Crestview, Illinois, where the buses run late and the sidewalks lift after winter. My husband died 6 years ago. The mortgage is paid because I pinched and balanced and chose the smaller can of peaches for 40 years. Since my hip surgery, my son Ethan and Carly have helped, which is to say they've treated my life like a stubborn jar they wanted to open fast. Their latest kindness was a paper thick enough to cushion a fall. I put on my reading glasses and read. It wasn't about plumbing. It was a gift deed and transfer of title, giving my house to Ethan now, to reduce future burdens. My name was misspelled on page 2 and perfect on the signature lines. You must think I'm very tired, I said. So tired I don't know my own address. Mom, don't be dramatic, Carly said, glancing toward the notary like she'd ordered a service, and it was taking too long. It's your idea, remember? We've been talking about you moving in with us. Safer, fewer stairs. The neighborhood is getting rough. That last word landed sharp. My neighbor from 2 doors down, Mrs. Ruiz, had walked by earlier and waved through the screen. She cleans offices and brings me tamales at Christmas. Rough was Carly's polite word for not worth your house anymore. I gave the notary my librarian stare, the one I used on teenagers forging hall passes, and asked for his business card. He slid it over. I wrote the date on the card and put it in my sweater pocket. Then I looked at Ethan. I will think about it, I said. No signatures today. My son's mouth tightened, then he kissed my forehead like I had a fever. We'll leave it with you, he said. Don't misplace it. When they left, the paper sat on my table like a sleeping animal I didn't trust. I turned it over and a small yellow sticky note slipped out. It wasn't Carly's writing. It was a name and number in neat block letters. Call Maya, HOA. I didn't know any Maya at the Homeowners Association. I called anyway. A calm voice answered. Mrs. Bennett? This is Maya Patel. I'm the treasurer. I shouldn't be saying this on a Friday, but I saw a draft lien request come through from your son for unpaid care expenses, and the address matched your unit. It didn't look right. I thought maybe you needed a heads up. I've seen this before. Are you safe? The note hadn't fallen. It had been planted. Someone I didn't know was telling me I wasn't crazy. The line clicked once, like the world adjusting its focus. That was the moment I knew I wasn't alone, and a plan I didn't have yet started forming around the edges. Saturday morning, the group chat pinged, family update. Carly posted a photo of a flyer for Lilybrook Assisted Living free tour, with a smiley face. Underneath, Ethan wrote, Mom, take it easy. We'll handle the paperwork. My niece Tasha added a heart, then deleted it. I saw the notification vanish like a thought she'd changed her mind about. On Nextdoor, someone complained about an elderly woman shouting at the bus stop. It wasn't me, but it was close enough to paint a picture. The pressure came soft and constant. A neighbor asking whether I was downsizing, a church friend saying she'd heard I was struggling, the deacon offering a ride anytime. At the pharmacy, the clerk asked if I wanted to add a caregiver contact and glanced toward Carly, who had somehow arrived to help with my prescription. Put my number, Carly said brightly. She forgets. I do not, I said, but my voice snagged on the last word, and the clerk, more tired than cruel, entered the number. Rules of our world showed themselves, crisp as receipts. In Illinois, a transfer on death instrument can send a house to someone without probate if the owner signs in front of witnesses who aren't beneficiaries. A durable power of attorney can move money with a simple signature. A gift deed can be recorded without telling anyone if it looks valid and the notary nods. Ethan and Carly were building a set of levers. They needed my hand on one. I made tea and opened the folder where I keep important things. My will from 12 years ago naming Ethan as executor because back then he still called me on Thursdays. Walter's life insurance payout confirmation. The deed showing the house free and clear. A note I'd written after my surgery labeled, "If I fall again." I added Maya's card and the notary's. That afternoon, Ethan arrived with groceries I hadn't asked for and a new, clean kindness that made my stomach drop. "Sign, and we'll move the utilities so there's no interruption," he said, wiping a non-existent spill on my counter. "We'll cover your expenses." Carly nodded and pointed to a stack of invoices for care she'd supposedly provided: gas, time, emotional labor, with a price per hour that made me blink. "We'll just attach a lien," she said, "to protect our investment." "It's standard." "Who told you that?" I asked. "Lilybrook's admissions counselor," she said. "Her name is Sandy. She's an angel." I wrote Sandy Lilybrook on my pad and underlined it twice. Angels don't charge $95 per hour to worry. When they left, I walked to the bus stop with my cane and rode to the bank. The teller, an older man with a hearing aid and a gentle way of sliding bills, took one look at me and said, "Tell me what they're trying to make you sign." I did, and he nodded like he'd filed it under usual. "Ask for an appointment with the branch manager," he said. "Say the words financial exploitation and third-party influence. Ask for a hold on outgoing transfers over $1,000 and a note that no power of attorney is valid unless the bank calls you and hears your voice first." At home, I opened the Lilybrook website and found a form for senior support services. At the bottom, in faint print, was a disclosure: referral partners may receive compensation. I clicked partners and a list popped up. The picture of Sandy was familiar. She volunteers at our church's rummage sale and always nudges people toward the pricier items. Her last name matched a company on Carly's invoice, S. Kramer Consulting. "Fake benefactor," I wrote. The third latte that day tasted like a decision. That evening, a letter slipped under my door. Notice: Pre-eviction assessment, Unit 14. The sender was the HOA. The signature at the bottom was Maya's, but the body spoke of unsafe living and declining capacity. My hand shook. I called the number on the letter. "I wrote the notice," Maya said, voice low, "because Ethan sent a request to fast-track a wellness check and implied you were hoarding. If the association sends the notice, we control the schedule and the checklist. It buys you time. Can you come to the office Monday? Bring every paper. And Mrs. Bennett, please don't sign anything this weekend. If they push, dial 911 and say undue influence. We need to establish a record." The weekends stretched long and thin. On Sunday, Carly posted a photo on Facebook of herself, caring for family, my hand visible in the corner holding the tea she'd just replaced with chamomile without asking. By Monday morning, my fear of being a burden had swollen so large I could barely zip my coat. I let it sit heavy. Sometimes the only way out is straight through the middle. Maya's office smelled like printer ink and basil from a pot on the windowsill. She had a neat braid and a careful way of listening. I handed her the gift deed, the invoices, the notary's card, and the printed screenshot from Lilybrook. She read without interrupting, then pulled a blank occupancy agreement from a drawer. "Here's my suggestion," she said. "If you choose to move in with your son temporarily, you do it as a tenant with a $1 per month lease and a clause that eviction requires 60 days and court review. That gives you rights. And we put your current home into a revocable trust with you as trustee and a recorded life estate. That means nobody can sell or pledge it without your written, notarized consent. I can refer you to an attorney who charges by the hour, not by the outcome. Isn't that being a burden?" I asked, the words heavier than I expected. Maya didn't flinch. "It's being strategic. Abusers hate paperwork that doesn't serve them. Make them sign where it hurts." The attorney was named Donovan, an older gentleman with a desk piled like a used bookstore. He drew up a trust in language even a tired teacher could follow. "You reserve the right to live here," he said, tapping the life estate clause. "You appoint a co-trustee to act only with you for big decisions. Choose someone not in the family beat." I chose Maya because she had nothing to gain except a stubborn woman's gratitude. We revoked the old power of attorney Ethan had found in my file, and I signed a new one naming Donovan for legal matters and the branch manager for transactions over $1,000. At the bank, the manager added a call to verify note and a hard hold on new joint accounts. We also set up camera alerts on my front door that pinged my phone if anyone tried a key. It wasn't paranoia. It was a catalog of realities. Small victories came with small losses. That night Ethan showed up, angrier than I'd seen him since he was 10, and I refused to buy him an expensive bat. "What did you do at the bank?" he said. "The mortgage broker called me." "You embarrassed me." "I called the bank to protect myself," I said. "I'm putting my house in a trust. It's still mine while I live." "We're trying to help, Mom," he said, rubbing his jaw the way his father used to when a lie tasted sour. "We found a place where you won't be alone. You'll love the activities." "There are activities here," I said mildly. "I like my chair." He exhaled hard, then smoothed his tone. "Just sign the transfer on death form, at least. It simplifies probate." "I'll decide that with my lawyer," I said, handing him a copy of the new POA revocation. "If you need to call someone, call him." That night my front door camera pinged at 1:13 a.m. The screen showed Carly trying keys and whispering, "She'll thank us later." The next morning, my mailbox door hung open and the trust packet I'd expected from Donovan was missing. My stomach plunged. "I called Donovan," he sighed. "They're moving faster." I scanned everything. The recording at the county went through yesterday afternoon. They can steal paper, not the deed. Still, my hands trembled when I reached for my tea. I opened the HA notice again and saw a line I'd skimmed. "Assessment will be witnessed by an independent observer." I called Maya. "Who?" I asked. "Our building's concierge," she said. "Mr. Green. He's quiet. He watches everything. He will document." By Friday, a certified mail slip appeared with a court date. Emergency guardianship petition. In re. Nora Bennett. Petitioner. Ethan Bennett. Hearing. Next Wednesday. The words sat heavy on my table, but not as heavy as they would have a week before. I had a trust, a co-trustee, a bank hold, a tenant lease draft ready in case I needed it, and a line of people willing to say in public what they'd only whispered in private. Wednesday could come. I would be ready. If they wanted a stage, fine, we'd have a performance. Court days feel like school assemblies. Too bright, too cold, too public. The probate courtroom had a high ceiling and a judge with a voice trained to soften bad news. Ethan sat with Carly behind him. Carly wore black and looked at the judge the way people look at dentists. On our side sat Donovan, serious as stone, Maya, calm as a clock, and, to my surprise, Mr. Green from the building had in his lap like a man in church. The judge opened a folder. Petitioner alleges Ms. Bennett is unable to manage her property and seeks emergency guardianship to prevent self-neglect and financial waste. Ms. Bennett, do you have counsel? Donovan stood. We do, Your Honor. And we object to the emergency on the grounds there is no emergency, only planned exploitation. The judge leaned back. Strong word, counselor. Prove it. Donovan didn't dramatize. He opened a slim binder and slid copies to the clerk. My recorded trust with life estate, the POA revocation, the bank's verification note, a screenshot of Lilybrook's referral disclosures, the care invoices with S. Kramer Consulting circled in red, and a printout of a deposit to S. Kramer from a referral fee that matched a withdrawal from Carly's business account to Lilybrook 2 days before a free tour. The supposed benefactor earns a commission for every move-in, Donovan said. Petitioner's spouse bills the respondent for emotional labor at $95 an hour. They drafted a gift deed and attempted to record it via a notary who failed to verify identity. His own business card is attached. They requested an HOA lien as leverage. None of these acts describe care. They describe control. The judge looked at Carly. Do you receive referral compensation? Carly's smile thinned. Everyone does, she said. It's standard. Not for family members petitioning to control an elder's estate, the judge replied. Then Maya stood. Your Honor, I'm the HOA treasurer. When I saw the draft lien request, I issued a pre-assessment instead to keep the matter in our process and give Ms. Bennett time. Here are photos from the unsafe living claim. She handed up pictures of my clean kitchen, the labeled medicine box, the grab bars Ethan had insisted were unnecessary, and that I installed myself with Mrs. Ruiz's grandson. Also, she continued, here is a ledger from our records. 2 weeks before the guardianship petition, the petitioner's spouse emailed our property manager asking how to speed up an occupancy transfer due to urgent donor commitments. She attached a pledge form to Lilybrook's capital campaign. The amount promised matches the assessed value of Ms. Bennett's unit. A ripple ran through the courtroom like wind in tall grass. The judge said nothing, just made a note. Donovan nodded at Mr. Green. The old man stood slowly, cleared his throat, and spoke with the earnestness of someone who has said very little all his life and saved it for when it mattered. I mind the lobby, Your Honor. I watch comings and goings. I kept a log for security after a break-in last year. On Sunday at 1:13 a.m., petitioner's spouse attempted entry at Ms. Bennett's door using a key not issued by management. She said, she'll thank us later. I have the camera footage on this drive. He handed it to the clerk like a delicate book. The judge watched the clip on a small screen. His eyebrows rose, then settled. He turned to Ethan. Why did you seek emergency guardianship yesterday, Mr. Bennett, not a month ago? Ethan looked at Carly, then at me. Because she's been getting confused, he said. She called a lawyer. She called the bank. She put her house in a trust without telling us. She's making rash decisions. It is not confusion to hire counsel, the judge said. It is capacity. Ms. Bennett, is there anything you'd like to say? I stood with my cane and felt the wood steady against my palm. I worked 44 years keeping other people's records straight, I said. I raised a son who used to call me every Thursday and now calls me when he needs a signature. I do not need a guardian. I need boundaries. If I am a burden, I will be a written one. I brought a lease, Your Honor. If I move in with my son, it will be as a tenant for $1 a month, with 60 days notice required before eviction. And here I lifted the care invoices and placed them on the podium, is my answer to these bills. I won't be paying for someone else's anxiety. Silence has a shape when a room realizes what it was about to do and stops. The judge closed the folder. Emergency guardianship is denied, he said. Petition is dismissed. I am entering a protective order. No liens on Ms. Bennett's unit without court approval, no changes to title, no use of any power of attorney unless verified by the bank according to their internal procedures. Costs to be considered after a hearing. Ms. Bennett, would you like any additional relief? Yes, I said. I'd like a copy of the order sent to Lilybrook and to our HOA manager. And I'd like my son to know he can still call me on Thursdays if he wants to talk and not transact. I turned, and in the last row, Tasha, the niece who had added a heart to the chat and then deleted it, was standing with her hand over her mouth. She met my eyes and nodded once, a small, decisive movement that felt, inexplicably, like the air making space for me again. Consequences don't clap. They file. The bank added alerts. The HOA sent a memo that any occupancy transfers required board approval and owner presence. Lilybrook emailed an apology with a miscommunication, as long as a train and a check returning Carly's commission. Donovan helped me set up bill pay that went only to accounts in my name. The notary received a warning from his licensing board. If he had been more careful, we wouldn't have met, but perhaps he will be careful for someone else now. Ethan texted once, I'm sorry you think I was trying to hurt you, the kind of message that apologizes for your feelings, not his actions. I typed and erased 3 responses and then wrote, I am not a project. If you want to visit as my son, Sunday at 3. If you want to negotiate property, talk to Donovan. He didn't come that Sunday or the next. Then, on a wet Thursday, he appeared at my door with a grocery bag of oranges and a look I recognized from his first confession about a lie in 6th grade. I was scared, he said, sitting at my table like a boy again. When Dad died, I saw the numbers and got scared. Carly said the house would fix everything. I let her say it twice. That was the last time he said her name in my kitchen for a while. I did move, but not to Lilybrook. I rented the upstairs room in Mrs. Ruiz's daughter's place for 3 months, while my bathroom was remodeled for grab bars and a walk-in shower that doesn't bite. I paid $1 a month and kept receipts that would make an auditor purr. I attended the HOA meeting where Maya explained, coolly, what undue influence looks like in paperwork. Mr. Green nodded twice. It felt like a library read aloud where you choose calm over drama because the children are listening. As for justice, it tasted like quiet. It tasted like unlocking my own door and knowing the key was mine. It sounded like Tasha calling to ask if I'd help her fill out FAFSA forms because, as she put it, Aunt Nor, you read the fine print like it owes you money. Once a week I sit at the community center and help neighbors sort mail, medical bills, scam letters, the final notice that isn't. We photocopy, we file, we breathe. I don't tell anyone a moral, but if they watch, they see one. Sometimes I catch my reflection carrying 2 bags of groceries and think of Carly's post about caring for family. If I were cruel, I'd post a photo myself. But cruelty is a blunt instrument and paperwork is a scalpel. I prefer the latter. The house stays in my trust with a life estate. When I'm ready, the remainder will go to the school library where I used to work, earmarked for the quietest room in the building, the place students go when they need to sit and hear themselves think. On warm nights I sit by my window and watch the bus slow at the corner. The driver, always the same woman with kind eyes, waves. I lift my hand and imagine a future where Ethan visits on Thursdays with his daughter, where he reads the fine print out loud before he signs anything for himself. The sound I hold onto is not the gavel in the probate courtroom or the ping of a bank alert. It's the smallest sound, a pen lifting off paper in a clerk's hand after writing dismissed. It's quiet, but once you hear it, you know what it means. And maybe that's the only ending that matters. The soft click of a lock as you close your own door from the inside, with nobody pushing it from the other side.